Right, recess is over. We are back in order. And, some of you may recall that movie theaters used to have double features. And people would pack in for the first one, and then the second show was kind of like this. We've lost a lot of our audience, but it's, the second feature could be just as good. You have to wait and see. So, we did have maybe a couple that wanted to conclude our testimony on the bill. And let's see. Greta, got there? You're here? Well,
Greta's going to look for that.
come on, Greta. Now she's not going to talk?
Well, it's my fault, Mr. Chair, that Greta and I had left. But I do, my name's John Stein, Commissioner of the Pollution Control Agency. Thank
You
you.
only have 2 minutes now.
Mr. Chair, I went to drive-ins frequently for the third feature film, because that's when literally everyone was either asleep or enjoying the movie.
Now, you left in the third.
No, I stayed for the third. I stayed.
He's doing things he shouldn't have been
I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chair, to make 4 quick points tonight on the bill, and also give you two thank yous. One is for the funding on the St. Louis River cleanup project, which you heard other testifiers speak to before you broke, and it is the second largest cleanup site on the Great Lakes. They're called areas of concern, and it is a project that would generate $47.2 million in match for a total project cost of $72.6 million. The bill includes $12.3 million or $12.7 million, and the governor's recommendation was for all of that $25.4 million in state funds to leverage the $47.2 in federal funds. The availability of federal dollars in the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative past 2017 is uncertain. Second, thank you for the $9.25 million in the bill for the Polk County solid waste recycling and composting facility. That project will divert more than 20,000 tons of waste from landfills in Polk County and the surrounding area, and is a very good project for our capital assistance program. Third, I wanted to just mention the closed landfill program funding for the WDE landfill in Andover, which Mayor was here earlier to speak to. There are some 6,600 barrels of toxic waste buried within that landfill that were buried there intentionally with the idea that they were going to be sequestered safely. They no longer are. They're leaking, and it's coming out in discharge. It's our highest priority in the program, with 20,000 people living within a mile of that landfill, and the need to prepare for the future. We want to move that project forward. The governor requested $11.35 million in funding, and I urge you to consider that for this critical project. We did receive $650,000 last in 2016 to prepare the plans for this site, and as the mayor mentioned, we are prepared and ready to go. Lastly, Mr. Chair, I want to put in a positive word for the Public Facilities Authority funding for the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Program and the Clean Water Revolving Loan Program, which provides assistance to Minnesota municipalities for clean water infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I believe is Sarah Wolf here?
I think she's trying to get here, Mr. Chair.
Well, maybe it'll have to be an interlude on amendments or something. Is there anyone else now? Last go around. Sorry, we're done. All right, come on.
So thank you for reopening the hearing. Maybe just time to get home and give my son a hand with his math homework, so worked out okay. My name is Jeff Horwich. I'm the communications manager for the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. And we wanted to be here today just to express our support for any measures that bring resources to our public housing buildings and to the low-income Minnesotans who call them home. MPHA is the largest housing authority in the state. We serve around 26,000 people through our public housing and our voucher programs. I think during the interim there, you heard from Joanne Montgomery, one of our residents, one of 9,000 people who live in the 6,000 units that we have in Minneapolis. I just want to paint a very quick portrait of the people behind this particular infrastructure. 35% of these public housing residents are seniors, 42% are disabled, 1/4 of them are children, and average household income is less than $15,000. So all of them face a housing market here in the Twin Cities that offers very little that is affordable or livable for people on low incomes. About 75% of our funding comes from the federal government, and much of the rest comes from tenant rents, which are essentially fixed. And we're leaving you with just a short document that has some charts showing the path of our federal funding in recent years, and I hope to take just a couple of minutes to review that at some point. The story that it tells is a long-running decline in congressional funding for our capital needs. We're talking about roofs, pipes, electricity, and major projects to renew and preserve public housing for future generations. In just the last 8 years, we've seen our federal capital funding fall by almost 30%. Our buildings should be safe, comfortable places to live, and we pride ourselves on doing everything that we can to steward our limited resources year in and year out to parse out $10 million right now in annual federal funding across capital needs that we estimate to be about 13 times that amount. State funding has been essential and is becoming more important than ever in helping to address that gap and helping us to meet the essential human need for shelter that we and other housing authorities provide around the state. So we strongly support the $10 million in proposed GO bonds for public housing, and we urge you and your colleagues to explore how the state might go even further in partnership with us to promote safe, quality homes for the most vulnerable members of our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I've been informed that the mysterious Sarah Wolf has arrived. Do you have any idea about her?
I do, and I want to apologize, Mr. Chair, and thank members of the committee for allowing me to step up here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm Sarah Wolf. I'm with the Minnesota Environmental Partnership, and I'd just like to briefly touch on 3 bonding issues that leverage federal dollars that the state of Minnesota would be very interested in. One, when we're talking about the Public Facilities Authority, investments in water infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure, and point source implementation grants. Each of those those through 3 areas. The second is the Board of Water and Soil Resources, reinvesting in Minnesota Reserve conservation easements for federal CREP matches of $45 million. The Reinvest in Minnesota Reserve program helps willing Minnesota farmland owners to conserve soil, eliminate erosion, protect habitat, and improve water quality. It also helps cover the cost of installing and maintaining buffers where required under the buffer law passed in 2015 and amended in 2016. State bonding at $45 million for RIM will leverage another $105 million in federal dollars and as part of a 5-year, 100,000-acre clean water effort. And the last is the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, the St. Louis River cleanup of $25.4 million. This project is matched 65% by federal funding, equaling more than $47 million. Those funds are available this year, but it looks like they might not be, likely wouldn't be in subsequent years. This project will clean up contaminated sediment and industrial waste at 10 locations at the St. Louis River estuary in the Duluth Harbor and Bay. Thank you so much for your consideration and your time this evening.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Anyone else? Last chance, last call. All right. Then, moving right along, we'll take up amendments. And, well, but before that, I mean, after hearing 60-plus testifiers this afternoon and evening, you understand, that it's a difficult thing putting together a bill like this because there are so many people that express the needs so well. And, this is what what we have to be doing, to consider, and we will certainly be doing the best we can to put together a good bill. Representative Hausman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a little bit of confusion about the rest of the evening because what I have heard you say throughout the day as you've responded to testifiers that this bill is still evolving, this isn't the real bill, and
I never used that expression. It's going to get me in trouble.
and so, well, or seeming to give some comfort that there are
Well,
possibilities for some of these.
Work in progress, and the bill that leaves here isn't the one that comes back.
So I think that's why it's, we have to take advantage of the only opportunities we're given. But I do wonder, I asked earlier about observations that the committee members might have. Is this the appropriate time, or do we wait till after the amendments, or?
Well, I think we'll, Representative Hausman, let's do the amendments, and then, we've got basically on, final, it's not third reading, but essentially, as we go over the bill at the end, whatever comments you want to make, that would be appropriate, I think. So let's do it that way. Representative Carlson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. I'm asking this question as the lead Democrat on Ways and Means. And I was left with the impression when we talk about whether this is the real bill or not, that this would be re-referred to Ways and Means, and then that's where it remains. Is that a correct assumption on my part or not?
It will, there is no date that I've been given when that bill will leave Ways and Means and go to the floor. In other words, as it's in Ways and Means, kind of sitting there on a shelf, we can take it off the shelf and do some work on it.
So then, Mr. Chairman, are you telling me then that this is the vehicle that will ultimately, because constitutionally, a bill that is taken up in the Senate has to originate in the House. So is this the bill that will ultimately leave Ways and Means in some form and be taken up on the House floor and ultimately then taken up by the Senate? Now, you did report a bill out of this committee earlier, too, that we sort of lightheartedly referred to it as a vehicle.
Yeah, we have more than
And I'm
one.
just trying to see what, as we move forward with these 31 amendments and re-refer the bill to Ways and Means, what the roadmap is. And I think it's all very vague and probably full of all kinds of rumors then as to what's going to happen. But you have said tonight more than once that this bill is going to grow, it is going to expand. So who does it and where? Is it going to be done in Ways and Means then? Or is it going to be done in some other forum and then amended in Ways and Means? I think the public would be interested in where they get, on the next stop, in Ways and Means, an opportunity for input as the bill moves forward. And I think these are very real questions, quite honestly, because of what you've indicated tonight, that this isn't the real bill.
Oh, quit using that expression.
Well, you've implied that.
It's a bill that could change.
Okay, you've implied that as it leaves here, it's going to change, and you've implied that it's going to grow.
Well,
And I'm just
yes.
asking where the growth is going to take place, and if it's going to be this bill that's going to grow, or if it's going to be done in some other forum.
Representative Carlson, there are various options open. One of them is, and frankly, the path, direction, is not set in stone at this point. You recall what happened with the bill the last time? Last year?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid, quite frankly. as a member.
I too do not want to see the end of session the way that bill ended. I'll say the bill will be worked on. We will discuss our bill with the Senate, with Senator Senjum. Representative Hausman will be involved in this process. And we will be, I spoke with Commissioner Franz earlier today. I would like the governor's staff to be involved in the process now. I want to know what is it that I mean, there's certainly things in this bill, even this bill, that the governor likes. But are there other things that the governor feels that he has to have? And I want to be apprised of that. And so, through the process, through working together, this bill will be changed. I can't say what number or anything that it will be changed to, but I'm certain that it will be bigger than it is today.
And Mr. Chairman, just, there are, even on this committee, some new members of the legislature, and so when we referenced last spring, just as a reminder, Ways and Means was convened at about 7:30 the last night that we had to constitutionally adjourn, and then it was brought up on the House floor probably about 11 o'clock. So after we saw the bill for the first time in Ways and Means, it was reported out, and then everybody was expected to vote on it a few hours later, almost sight unseen, quite frankly. And then when I say, that's why I'm asking these questions, so that we don't, in Ways and Means, have a replay of what happened last time, because then ultimately it failed. And a question that I would have asked several people who were testifying before us would have been what the increased cost in some of these projects was, because we didn't act last spring, and now we're going to be acting later this year. If we don't ultimately pass a bill because of last-minute collapse of some sort, the price is going to go up, and we still, fortunately, have relatively low interest rates. And if we don't take advantage of that, that's going to cost the state of Minnesota, quite frankly, millions of dollars between the inflationary increases and the increases in interest rates. So these are important questions that I'm asking, and that's why I say I think it's important. This is a bill that requires some votes for the minority, at least, and I think it would be helpful if that were shared by you or the Speaker of the House as to what our roadmap is, so we can plan for it. And I'll just stop there. If you want to comment any further, that's fine, but I think things as they leave here tonight are just very much up in the air as to what the future of this bill is, and how it's going to grow, and who's going to grow it, and when it's going to be brought forward on the House floor.
Well, thank you, Representative Carlson, and I think those are good points for you to bring up. I thank you for that, and I will try to clarify some things as I know them, with the realization that I don't know everything. So, certain people in my district don't tell that to, but anyway.
They know.
So some of us could help them in that regard.
Well, all right. No, again, this bill will go to Ways and Means, and then it will sit there. But we will be essentially taking that bill down, again, with Representative Hausman, with probably Senator Pappas and Senator Senjum, working on the Senate bill and on the bill that we have here, that we're passing out of here and into Ways and Means, and from that will grow the bill. And now, that's the way it happened last year. I am not saying that that is the best way to do it. There are other options that I might look at, but this is the path that we are on. Now, what I have said, and I've spoken to our leadership about this and said, we're down to inside 3 weeks now. I do not want to be put in the position that happened last time, where what you described happened. If I have my druthers, well, heck, we do the bill next week. But let's just say that at the latest, and this is what I've conveyed to our leadership, early in the last week of session, that we have this bill on the floor. It will have been, certainly vetted more than the half hour in the hallway last time. And we'll have it done with days to spare. I don't want to come in the last night of session with this bill and have what happened last time happened again. So those are my preferences, and hopefully it'll happen. Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Carlson.
I thought I was done, but let me just say this. When you come in with a small bill like this, and if you do end up in a conference committee, under the joint rules, and I'm not sure you're going the conference committee route, but if you do, you are limited to the projects that are in this bill, and you're going to have to work off the Senate list, which is going to give the Senate a huge upper hand. And right now, I wouldn't probably mind that from the standpoint that at least...
I was going to suggest you would like that.
But that's the problem when one body or the other comes in with a small bill, and if you're following the traditional track of a bonding bill and you go into conference committee, you're going to have, if you stay with this, a very short list of House projects, and you'll be working from the Senate version. And if anybody wants to follow the joint rules of the House, you can't introduce new issues in a conference committee. Now, if you're tracking it differently, and that's where it'd be helpful for the public and the members of this committee that are interested in the capital investment to know what the path is, whether there's going to be a conference committee or not, whether it's going to be simply done by amendment someplace. But if you put it up in conference committee, it's got to grow someplace, or you're going to just simply work off the Senate list under the joint rules. That's my only point.
Okay. Thank you. Now we'll do the amendments.
No.
I will just say that in the end, we want a bill that is good for the people of Minnesota, the best bill we can do, and that's what we'll work on. Representative Hausman?
And Mr. Chair, I think that's why we're offering amendments tonight, because we see it's our only place. I mean, there are two things that are part of this process. One is when the public tells us what the needs are and describes them, and then members who respond to those needs. And I think that's what the process of amending a current bill attempts to do.
Okay, thank you. It's been a good discussion. I appreciate it. And the first amendment that we're going to take up tonight is A19, Representative Poppe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Poppe, you move your amendment, please.
I will move the amendment. This amendment provides funds to renovate facilities to advance, enhance, and strengthen the professional teacher education program at Winona State University. WSU is a significant higher ed asset whose sphere of influence reaches far beyond the Winona campus. I do not represent Winona, nor do I represent WSU, but I do represent Austin, and within my legislative district, we are directly impacted by WSU's education programming. In fact, just this past weekend, we had the first graduates from the 2+2 elementary ed program. Those are students who started their first 2 years at Riverline Community College in Austin, concluded their final 2 years through WSU. It was in an elementary school in Austin. So we're proud of our collaborative effort with WSU. And I.J. Holton Intermediate School, which is a STEAM school in Austin, is the model for the WSU facility renovation. So it's important for us in Austin and in Mower County to work with WSU. So Riverline Community College is a partner with WSU in their education programming. This was in last year's bonding bill. I am not asking for a vote tonight, Mr. Chair. I'm just asking for consideration. So I'd like this to be included in a bonding bill, as hopefully it does grow and does include additional things. So I appreciate the opportunity to present this amendment. However, I am not going to ask for a vote, so thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Representative Poppy. And I should have said, you know, there are a lot of amendments here that were from last year's bill. And, you know, they will be given very serious consideration as we go through the deliberations on this bill. Next, we'll go to Representative Eklund, A14.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, first off, I need to apologize for earlier in the meeting. My kids told me I was not smart enough for a smartphone, and I probably certainly proved that. So, Mr. Chairman and members, the A14 amendment provides funding for the University of Minnesota Duluth Chemical Science and Advanced Materials Science Building. This is a project the committee has been seen and heard about for the better part of 2 years. This is the #1 priority on the University of Minnesota system bonding list is badly needed improvements for our science students, and I would urge you to find a way to include this project in the bill. Mr. Chair, I too am not going to ask for the vote. I just asked for consideration, so I will withdraw this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Eklund. And technically, he moved it first. Next, we'll go to, well, actually, as we go through these tonight, we're just sticking with the authors until they do all of their bills. So, Representative Eklund, you've got A15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The A15 amendment would fully fund the state's share of cleanup of the St. Louis River estuary. Your bill currently includes half funding for the cleanup project. There is a significant amount of federal funding being leveraged by these state dollars, and the amendment will move the project more quickly to ensure that we have access to those matching federal dollars to complete the project. I hope you expand the scope of the project funding in the final bonding bill, and I too at this time will withdraw this amendment.
Okay, thank you, Representative Eklund. And now you have A18.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The A18 amendment would provide appropriation bonds for the Duluth Steam Plant project. As Mayor Larson explained, this is a major upgrade for the steam plant operation, actually converting it from steam to a more efficient hot water system. The project needs to proceed as the city undertakes the reconstruction of its main street, Superior Street. That project will take place in 2018, so they need the state funding for the steam plant upgrade to come through in 2017. I know you have seen, and the committee has seen, this facility, and I've heard previous testimony. I ask you to consider including this project in the final bonding bill, and this one too I will withdraw at this time.
Thank you, Representative Eklund. A31.
Mr. Chair?
Representative Detmer.
Yeah, could we, when these are presented, could they indicate, the authors indicate if they were on last year's bonding?
These all were.
Pardon?
These were. Yeah, I guess authors, if it was in last year's, if you would indicate that so that the rest of the committee does have an understanding. So I went A31? A31, Representative Eklund.
And I'm digging that one out, Mr. Chair.
All righty.
Okay, Romano Jim.
A20?
A31 is for the Romano Gym,
Sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And UMD only gets 8% of HEAPR funds from the state, so with only $30 million of HEAPR, UMD would get only $2.4 million. It's not sufficient to complete one project on UMD's priority list. The U of Minnesota system allocates only 8% of HEAPR to UMD. So we need the HEAPR funding to be at $80 million. I'd like you to consider this project, or this project in the upcoming bonding bill. We need $6.5 million to complete the project, and I too at this time will ask for your consideration but withdraw this amendment.
Okay, thank you. This one, excuse me, it was not earmarked in last year's bill. A20?
That Gitchigami Trail, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So that's my own, Mr. Chair. So anyway. So the Gitchigami Trail project was in last year's bonding bill. We're asking for $3.3 million, and that too is leveraging federal funds, so I would like that trail project to be considered. It is a definite safety issue on Highway 61 on the North Shore, where right now, when the trail's completed, the people riding the bikes along the North Shore will not have to come out into traffic in the Tofty area. So I will withdraw the amendment, but I ask for its consideration, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Representative Eklund. Now we'll go to A1, Representative Considine.
This is the Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Minnesota State Mankato that, at the request of the legislature, had done their building in 2 phases. Phase 1 has been complete now for, I think, about a year and a half. They were expecting to be in last year's bonding bill. They were not. But it has been a long-time commitment from the legislature to do so. So I would like to ask you to consider this one, and I'll withdraw the request for a vote on it, but I'd really like to see this get finished before we move on to other clinical science buildings.
Okay, thank you, Representative Considine. You also have A2.
I do. A2 is the Minnesota Security Hospital in St. Peter. And as we've heard testifier out of testifier, this needs to get done. And frankly, I am going to ask for a vote on this one, and I would like a roll call on it. This is morally something that the legislature needs to step up and do. These people, no less than are people in uniform in the military or police, they are on the front lines of keeping us safe from folks that would hurt them. They are in a dangerous situation, and we need to step up and let them know we're going to take care of them.
Well, Representative Considine and members, I do think this is an important project. We are certainly going to take a really hard look at it. Tonight, I would suggest that we vote no, and with again the commitment that we're going to take a real hard look at this. Representative Uglum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Considine. Perhaps it might be better if we did not have to take a vote on this, not set a precedent. This is something I think that every one of us is very concerned about. It's a good project. It needs to be done just exactly like you said. But if we were to vote in the negative from this, I think in the future, putting it in a bill might be a little more difficult. Not to say it couldn't be done. I think Representative Carlson might, and Representative Hausman might feel the same way, I don't know. But if we were to do this and withdraw it, we might have a better opportunity to insert it later. My thoughts only.
And
What if we passed it?
Representative Considine, let me just say, one reason is that I'm supposed to come out of here tonight with a $600 million bonding bill, and this would make it $670 million. Representative Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I understand what you're saying. I believe that this is imperative enough, though, that I am hoping that the entire committee will vote for it and do what they're elected to do, which is take care of the citizens of Minnesota. And I'm trying to play ball on all the rest of them, but this one, we thought last year that it was going to be in the bonding bill and that it would get passed, and it didn't. I'm in a real quandary here because I'd love to be a team player and just withdraw it, but I'm not sure how I go back to my constituents, the people like Miss McMillan, who we saw that had the seizures, or Eric Hess, who had the broken orb around his eye, or Jolene Zeman, who I worked with, that got carried out on a stretcher. This is really compelling. No, it's not Representative Cornish's, it's actually in Representative Johnson's district.
Well, Representative Considine, I understand, your compassion and your need, from your district to do what you need to do, and, go ahead with it, but I don't want people to construe that our negativity tonight is permanent.
Could I have just 1 minute?
Mr. Chairman?
Representative.
If I may, we passed some time ago the House budget resolution, and this committee was given a target of $800 million for a bonding bill, and that was the forecast number. So if we leave this committee, and I understand you're saying your instructions are, but we are governed by the House budget resolution. And that resolution says that there's still $200 million, literally, on the table as this committee meets here tonight. So I think that this amendment and any future amendments that come forward are very much in order. And this committee has full authorization under the House budget resolution to spend up to the $800 million level. And I'm not just addressing this amendment, but others that are in the pipeline here, because I think there's 31 to begin with. That's under House rules. That Committee of Ways and Means passes the budget resolution, and that covers all the fiscal committees.
And
In a nutshell.
Representative Carlson, I will not dispute those observations with you. You notice that no one made a motion to rule him out of order. But the number that I've been given tonight is $600 million. Whether it's a budget resolution or not, that's what I need to stick to.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I acknowledge that you said you were given instructions, but I'm saying that there's a higher level of instruction, and that's the House rules give the authority to the Ways and Means Committee to set the budgets for each of the fiscal committees, and in this case, I don't have it with me, but I could show it to you. Well, you know it.
I won't dispute anything you're saying.
The budget resolution says that we have $800 million for a bonding bill this committee is moving forward. Yeah. And that's the only point I'm making, not only on this amendment, but the future amendments.
Yes, and you are correct. Representative Considine, did you want?
Representative Dean, I think, had something.
Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. When I think about this whole notion of this bill or this amendment possibly being defeated along a no vote, that should not encumber its ability to be included in a bill. And so I think for a member to ask for a vote, because we're sent here by our constituents to try to represent them, we're sent here to do what we think is right, I would assume that, should, this committee not approve the amendment today, that it would somehow impinge upon the ability of the project to be included later. And I would just hope that the chair and the leadership, the current GOP leadership, not misconstrue a negative vote in this committee as a project not being deserving of being funded.
Representative Dean, I will not disagree with you. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just on process, if any of the vehicles that have gone that were house-generated, and maybe this is a council question, but if a vehicle is house-generated and a deal is struck, hopefully not the last 6 hours, but if a deal is struck
At least 12 hours.
and it's a house-generated vehicle, and that gets placed in somewhere, we don't know where, then there's no opportunity for amendments on the floor, correct? That if this comes in conference somewhere, if the deal comes in conference, there's no amendments on the floor. So this is the only time that people can represent their district, because we wouldn't even have a chance, like last time. Wouldn't even have a chance to offer an amendment. And last year, when we tried to offer amendments, the first time the mute button was applied was trying to offer amendments on Representative Considine and myself. So there is no other choice or voice for our districts if we don't offer the amendments and ask for votes.
Representative Hanson, I said to Representative Considine earlier, you want to vote, we'll vote. Same with any of you. So you want to vote? Let's go.
I do, and I'm hoping that you guys will step up and do the right thing in this particular instance. You have seen the testimony, you watched the young lady going through the seizures. There's no doubt about the need.
Call the roll.
Representative Urdahl.
No.
Representative Buglum.
No.
Representative Bennett.
No.
Representative Carlson.
Yes.
Representative Considine.
Yes.
Representative Dean.
Yes.
Representative Detmer.
No.
Representative Eklund.
Yes.
Representative Frankie.
No.
Representative Grossel.
No.
Representative Gunther.
No.
Representative Hanson.
Yes.
Representative Hausman.
Yes.
Representative Jurgens.
No.
Representative Lilly.
Yes.
Representative Lewick.
No.
Representative Miller.
No.
Representative Pearson. Representative Poppy.
Yes.
Representative Poston.
No.
Representative Runbeck. Representative Sock.
Yes.
There being 12 noes and 9 ayes, the amendment fails. Now we'll go to A3, Representative Sock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some projects that I don't believe were in the final bill that came through last year. What they are is we're starting with A3?
A3.
Okay. A3 is a project, a replacement of a major facility at the campus. This is a 4-school shared campus now. RCTC houses programs that are for the Winona State, and then other parallel institutions that are housed there along with all of the programs that go with RCTC, the 2-year programs. They have a facility there that I think in the past you've heard the testimony that it is the place where they experience the roof to drop right in the class, during class. They have parts of this building where it snows indoors. They have parts of this building where it rains regularly indoors, and they have to have bucket brigades and that sort of thing. There are parts of this building that are inclement to the point that the people working there have to wear their coats through a large part of it. There are there's 84 separate heating units. Yeah, we wouldn't build it this way again. Nobody probably would, but it was a decision at the time, and it was the way the facility was designed. So there are some facts that go along with this kind of a replacement. The project is a $20 million project, $21 million project. but the savings is $143,500 per year. Just on the energy alone, when you turn off or get rid of the idea of having 84 heating units or cooling units running in individual spaces throughout the facility, when you go to a modern construction with both insulation and heating units, you get a huge payback. These are important changes. We are one greater in terms of the list that we have all come to respect. We are down the list one farther than the current bill goes. And so I understand and want to respect the fact that that is a good process and that it does value the needs across the state. And so with that regard, I wanted to put this amendment out to show two things. One is the sad state that our funding is for the replacement of projects. We have a project here that even under our own system that leaks and snows and eats energy like crazy, that we do not have a system or funding to replace. Most of us would not even think about living in a structure like this. Most of us would not leave our business in a structure like this. We would have moved to another place. So I'm only offering this primarily so that we understand the significant and critical need that this example is for a number of the facilities around the state. We have critical issues here, and I guess what I'm advocating for is that we really do have to consider much larger numbers to get back into the stream in terms of meeting the need as the need is rising for us. With that explanation, I'll withdraw this particular one because it is, like I said, we would be jumping over somebody else's needs, and it's by the judgment of the administrators of the Minsky system that what I just described to you is not the worst, that it's worse out there, apparently up at Bemidji. So I would offer to you that we do have to take a measure of this, and as we look forward to next year's work, we have got to get on the horse because we are out of the game right now. So with that, Mr. Chair, I withdraw that amendment. Do you want me to move on to the other three?
I guess we're doing A4, Representative Considine, next, and then we'll be back to you.
Yep.
But, look forward next year to working with you on this. I recognize that, there is a need that needs to be remedied. Representative Considine.
The page is passing out a picture. The one house is falling into the sewer river. The owner has already vacated.
Okay.
The one next to it has been washed away more. Through FEMA, they can get mitigation money of 75% of what their home is worth. The DNR has a project where the county can purchase the other 25%, and people can walk away. They're going to lose their homes, but they can at least have that. But at this point, I'll withdraw it too.
Okay, thank you, Representative Considine. A23, Representative Sock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I have are three amendments that essentially I'll speak to all together because they're just individual parts of the same problem.
A23, A24, A26.
Thank you. These are HEPR projects, and really two of them would probably fall into the normal course of things if the HEPR allocation was double what it is. So if we were able to move that up to the 50 number rather than the 25 number, that would allow two of these to move in. Without the HEPR allocation moving up, none of these go in. Now we're talking about the RCTC system is on two campuses. This is one building that essentially is fallen behind on its roof maintenance issues, and then with that goes the heating units that are on top of the roof. It's $1.7 million to get them taken care of. I don't know how many of you have ever managed a building, commercial building, that has this kind of heating unit on it. When they come to the end of their useful life, you are almost pouring more money into them per year than the heat you're buying. They become maintenance money eaters. And these things are at exactly that kind of age. I can tell by looking on them because of the design elements. These are very old roof-type units where there's minimal insulation in there. So it's running, essentially it's running the heated air up into this almost uninsulated metal box, and then theoretically heating them and sending it back down into the living space. And there are all kinds of both environmental and energy elements of that. I bring these up to point out the real and significant benefit of adding to the HEAPR allocation, because this would then be in system, and this one would be taken care of. The second thing that's in HEAPR on this particular building also is that the mortar on the building is essentially completely degrading. I've got a picture here where there's a crack in the wall that's not on a vertical surface, it's on a canted surface, and you can stick 3 fingers right into the crack. And so on any rain or anything like that, any water running down the side of that brick basement, it's running right into the building. And so that sort of wear and tear and lack of maintenance, which is just simple tuck pointing, is completely, again, not being done. And as these projects do not come up in the line fast enough, and our system that we've designed keeps messing with the amount of money that's available, these very critical things, and again, if any of us did this on a private basis, and I did, I used to run a commercial building, I would have been out there myself if I had to fix a hole like this. It's that obvious, it's that ridiculous. And it's a state asset, and we are failing to step up and get these kinds of things taken care of. The third one is essentially a flat roof replacement. Most of us that, again, have been around commercial buildings understand that in Minnesota that actually is a relatively common commercial building technique. This one is of the age that it still has separate tar sheets that are tarred together. And so the adhesive tar is in the seams and that sort of thing. And again, that's a technique and a method that is just out of date. And all of it is starting to disintegrate into function. They do have a space, and as it turns out, typically the water ponds in the middle of the roof, which in that kind of a roof, that means it's just a matter of when is it going to leak and how much did it rain. So these systems, again, I'm only bringing it up to make the strong point that we all realize that we have facilities out there that are state facilities. We theoretically are supposed to be stewards of this, and our system isn't working to be able to manage this maintenance. Again, I'll withdraw these amendments, but I bring them up as the example of what we could do with generally some fairly modest, in fact, the addition of that additional $25 million to the HEAPR fund would, to the state, be a modest increase, and it would do huge amounts of maintenance across the state in our state buildings. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Reverend Sock. The Senate, I believe, is about $10 million more in their bill than the House is, and we will certainly take that into consideration as we go through this. Next, we have A12, Representative Carlson.
Now, Mr. Chairman, apparently there's a typo that should be page 7, line 4, that I'm striking the $11,555,000 and inserting 20 million. So I would like to incorporate that correction in the amendment. Mr. Chairman, I know you asked us to comment if these projects were in the bill last spring. Arguably, you could say to a degree the issue was in the bill, but not the particular projects that would be covered with the flood mitigation through DNR on the list that would be covered by moving the number from the 11.5 to 20 million. It's an amendment that deals with flood mitigation literally around the state. To give you a sample, flood mitigation projects in Montevideo, Halstead, Rushford, Afton, Austin, Moorhead, Owatonna, Golden Valley, Robbinsdale, or not Golden Valley, New Hope, Crystal. We've got what they call Red Path. That's a project south of Moorhead, Roseau, and Afton. Second one in Austin, another one in Red Path. But to give you that feeling that they're projects around the state, some of them have been started that wouldn't be covered under the number that's in the bill. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 projects that would be completed by moving it to the 20 million around the state. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to have consideration on this amendment. Well, I was going to say something, but I won't. But yeah, I want to move the 812, and I would like to vote on the amendment per our discussion last night. I'll say no more.
Okay. And same thing that I said earlier, I don't want to add money to this bill tonight. Flood mitigation is a very important thing, and we will certainly be giving it due consideration. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Noes prevail. Next, we have Representative Lilly, A16.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer the A16. It's regards to the Dorothy Day Opportunity Center, and I can tell you I'm really honored to carry this. There's many other people at the table that could have. I think Chair Gunther's one of the co-authors on it. It's about the Opportunity Center. I kind of had to wrestle this amendment away from Chair Hausman, former Chair Hausman, and you know, there's many good authors that are on the provision. It was in last year's bill. This is basically a phase 2 of what's being built over pretty close to here on the other side of 35. It's on the bill is Zerwas and Representative Tice, who was on this committee last year, and Albright. I'm not shy to bring this up today because, you know, we have about 10 members that are, you know, kind of new on here, and I don't plan to vote on it, but I certainly do feel that we should talk about it. It's a neat place, and you heard from Mr. Marks earlier today, and actually from quite a few housing advocates about the merits of investing in housing, and this place really is a state treasure, and many of us have had an opportunity to tour when they were in St. Paul, and then certainly they've offered tours over here in the new place, and a matter of fact, they're going to have a breakfast on Friday morning, so I really recommend that you get up 7 a.m. and go to the St. Paul Hotel and show some support, and it's open to us all. But, you know, I just want to, just so you know, because we do have some new members, I just kind of want to go through a couple of just the points and then plan to withdraw the amendment. But it's just a neat place, and it's serving folks that coming into the metro from all over the state. 66 counties, people are coming in, and I don't know that maybe we've got some of their team out here, you can raise your hands, and just doing a great job, so you can ask them questions and seek them out, and I'm certain that Chair Urdahl, you'll find a place in the bill and for this as it grows into a nice number, and but the clients that come, again, are from 66 counties all over the state, and these are veterans, these are people, you know, I mean, you'd be surprised who ends up needing to maybe find their way through this place. And so what the phase 2 is going to be services on the main level, and then they'll have housing up above, is my understanding, and they're basically full out already in the new housing already. And one neat thing is, I don't know if he caught it earlier because we had 60-some testifiers, but when he spoke, he said that I mean, they're almost raised $40 million of community commitment, the St. Paul Chamber, and just all sorts of, I think I had a list here of something, but, you know, across party lines, this isn't a partisan thing at all, but they have these great maps of people that are, you know, coming in from all over the state, but Richard Davis from, you know, not that these things matter, but they kind of do. It kind of says what the community's, you know, the investment too, but Richard Davis is stepping up, and U.S. Bank, and Baker's on there from Ecolab, and a lot of other good, what's her name, Mary Brainerd from Health Partners, but just a great effort, and they've raised about $40 million, so they're asking us to step up and do the $12 million, which is a pretty small ask on the phase 2. So, anyways, I feel lucky to offer it. I plan to amendment, or I'd like to withdraw it, but please, all of us, you know, I know we have a lot of new members, and I hope this is something that we all can certainly embrace, and hope it's in, get behind, and hopefully it's in there in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lilly. I'll just say, you know, this afternoon, looked at my phone, it was ringing in my office, and on the screen it said, Minnesota Wild. And I thought, they need me? So I answered, and it was, hello, this is the so-and-so from the Minnesota Wild, and I'm calling today for the Dorothy Day Center.
Awesome.
So, you know, people are working for you out there. And Representative Hausman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before he withdraws this, I have to tell one story. I just toured the first phase a few weeks ago, and among the improvements, when we went the last time to visit this, men and women in the shelter used to be divided by a row of chairs. Now they're in 2 different rooms. And so, I mean, when you see just a little bit of an investment and what a change it can make in the comfort of people, it's just.
Thank you, Representative Hausman. And Representative Gunther.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, members, there's another thing I'll never forget when I toured it, and probably about the same time they slept on rubber mats on the floor.
Right.
They also counseled those people. Every one of them had to learn about jobs available, job training, and economic development, and it was really kind of a good thing that they all had a chance to get a job and learn a skill. And I thought that's the kind of place we really need, because we can truly then take people out of being homeless and make them tax-paying citizens. How's that?
Thank you, Representative Gunther, and certainly affordable housing is an important issue that we need to look at. Representative Lilly, we'll let you do A17-0421.
Mr. Chair, I have a letter of advocates for the what is it, 17? I see all this -40 or 0421. I don't know if I got to say all that, but Mr. Chair, I offer this amendment on basically I'm submitting the governor's number. You and your bill, you have about $10 million. I'm going to take a few seconds again because we do have so many new members, and I just hope you can just kind of hear this out briefly. I know we've had a long day, but throughout the day we've kind of heard that there's some of these opportunities that this is with Board of Soil and Water Conservation and investing in around the state, but there was a press conference a while ago with Bowser and the governor, and I believe Chair Gunther was out there, and Representative Hansen were up there, and they were talking about the possibility that the Bowser had negotiated with the federal government that we could, if we spent $150 or so million, that we could, and then the state committed so much that we would commit $150 million, and then it'd match almost 2.3 to every dollar, and so it would just have this huge, 300-some million of compounding that we could invest in rural Minnesota. Now, keep in mind, these are willing folks, and right now they're kind of, that we can protect some of the waters in Minnesota, and if you would indulge me just for like a minute, I was wondering if we could have like the Assistant Commissioner from Bowser just zip up. You better get the time clock, but I just wonder if I could just have like a minute and she could just kind of say where this goes around the state. And then I'm hoping that you hear this out. I'm sorry to go back to the same idea, but we have a lot of members that have heard about some of these things around the state, but we have a lot of new members, and this just can do a lot of good work around the state. And so anyways, Mr. Chair, is it all right with you if she just gives us 2 minutes? She promised me she should be brief, and she's far smarter than me, so she can kind of explain where it goes and what it does.
Welcome. Identify yourself, please, and for everyone but Representative Lilly.
Mr. Chair and members, Angie Becker-Kudelka, Assistant Director with the Board of Water and Soil Resources. Mr. Chair and members, Representative Lilly, thank you for offering this amendment. So the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program is something that receives strong bipartisan support, and it is designed to target the most environmentally sensitive acres across the state of Minnesota. We are now, right now, in the next 5 years, going to lose around 600,000 acres of CRP. 600,000 acres are coming out of conservation programs. Roughly about half of those get re-enrolled. So this is for 60,000 acres of money that will come into the state, and the federal money, this federal $350 million, goes directly out to landowners. So this is bringing money into the state of Minnesota that will go directly out for landowner payments, which we think is great for Minnesota, and we appreciate all of the support here. There is some urgency, and so the urgency is that, one, in order to secure this federal match, the agreement has been signed, but in order to secure it, we cannot start processing those applications, awarding applications, until we have the state and federal match in place. So it's given proportionally. And then second, it also allows for the landowners, it's very focused, it's only 3 practices: buffers, wetland restoration, and wellhead protection for drinking water. And so it will allow landowners to have funding, if they're interested, it's voluntary, to achieve the buffer law, for example, or to work on those other 2 very targeted protections in the state. With that, I'll wrap up, and if there's any questions, I stand available.
Any questions? Representative Lilly.
No questions. I just thank you for allowing us to kind of have us go through it, and keep in mind it's willing folks. It's that are offered this opportunity, and right now it's quite appealing, and especially in southwestern Minnesota is my understanding. So I hope that you look favorably on it. And with that, I'd like to withdraw the amendment at this time. But
thank you, Representative Lilly. Representative Sock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to remind us all, and I know that this is kind of duplicitous for all of you, but we just sat through, I sit in agriculture also, and I recognize a lot of faces. We sat and listened to how difficult it was for us to live with the buffers law, because one of the challenges was being able to get money to the landowner for having set that land aside for that purpose. Yet here we have a direct access to those funds to take care of this thing that we were all turning ourselves inside out trying to solve. I just want us to notice things like that, because I think that's one of those things that maybe it's my silly virgin eyes that are all of a sudden seeing things that some of you are not necessarily getting the bright light bulb. So I'm sorry for that comment, Mr. Chair, but I appreciate it.
I thought it was a country music song title.
Virgin eyes. A new book.
Yeah. All right, you done? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Representative Lewick.
Just to kind of follow on that, the smartest commanding officer I ever worked for in the Navy, when you checked the board, you had an interview with the CO, and the first thing he said was, for the next 30 days, look at everything you see here and write it down, and if it doesn't make sense, come and tell me, because after 30 days, you're going to be part of the problem around here. But again, he was the smartest guy I ever worked for.
Maybe.
Thank you, Representative Lewick. Representative Hausman, you have A17, and then another one here will come to as well, A13.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll move the A17 amendment. This was in the last year's bill. This is the $35 million in housing infrastructure bonds. This is where we partner with Lutheran Social Service, Catholic Charities, Common Bond, Beacon, Aon, all the nonprofits, and $1 of state money leverages, I believe, at least 3 of private dollars. All of those nonprofits assure us that they can provide all those permanent supportive services around that housing. Nothing else in your life goes well if you don't have a safe place to sleep at night. One of the fastest growing in the demographic there is over 55, and we are making progress, but still have a long ways to go. With veterans, we can actually almost count them now. We are so near to solving it. So it was in last year's bill. It is a different kind of tool than general obligation bonding, and so I would encourage support of this.
Thank you. We'll come to a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Be a little more enthusiastic, please. Noes prevail. You have another one.
I would also move the A13. There's probably no other line in any bonding bill that affects more people than this. Millions of people. If you live in the 7-county metro area, your constituents are part of those millions of people who use the metro parks. We always underfund them. We usually give them $1 million or $2 million, but in the negotiations of last year's bill, there was an agreement on $5 million for metro parks. It certainly serves all of those in the 7-county metro area, but in fact, people from all over the state come to these parks. Millions of people. Again, there's not one other line in the bonding bill that you can ever point to that serves as many people in the state of Minnesota.
Thank you. Representative Hausman, you're done?
Yes.
All right. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
A little better. Noes prevail. And now we're down to the Dean and Hansen hour. Representative Ray Dean.
Yes.
It's your time.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
have
Chair.
A17-4.
415. I have a couple little handouts for that. And for the Emerge Community Development Project, it's $850,000. And, Mr. Nguyen spoke to this project earlier. And this is a project that's actually been around for quite some time. Originally, when we discussed it, we were attempting to have it be part of a bonding bill. And through negotiations and discussions, because of the funding that was not allowed through the historic preservation, it actually got moved into a tax bill as a tax grant, and that was included last year as part of the tax bill that ultimately was vetoed by the governor, so it wasn't included. And I bring it back to you this year because it was not included in this year's tax bill. And we are requesting $850,000 as from the general fund as this project is currently completed. And one of the things that's critical about this project, and I don't think that Mr. Nguyen explained really the level of impact that the current debt has on the project. I believe it's $400,000 with the county and $500,000 with the city of Minneapolis. And there comes a point when the project is actually loan is due. But the debt service on this is exceeding right now $35,000 a year, and as we move forward, that begins to increase more and more and more. And what that means is critical programming that the Career and Technology Center provides to North Minneapolis as well as other residents throughout the region is directly impacting them. So this is a project that I think in many ways is similar to the Hennepin Center for the Arts, that it's been around a while. We've been working at it, and I think it's time that we include this funding at this point in time. And given what you have been mentioning, I am optimistic that we will see some cash. We actually saw some money today that was $300,000 in this bill that is coming with cash, and I know that it's coming from money that was sort of put back, but the way I understand the general fund, that once it's back there, and it's sort of like, credit default swaps. It's hard to tell where that mortgage was. So clearly there's the ability of us to take some cash money for a project like this, but at this time, I'll withdraw this project. I believe you all got a slideshow on that tells the real details about this project, and I hope that you'll take a look at that as you consider this moving forward.
Thank you, Representative Dean. And next, we have A21.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This is the Veterans Home Trust Bridge project, which we had several people testify about this evening, or was it this afternoon? I don't know. It's all kind of a blur now. This is a real critical project for the Veterans Home. I think that the ability of having two accesses in and out to this facility is really critical, and currently there's one. And the testifiers did a really good job of testifying to it, but they didn't speak about the actual physical nature of the road that leads in currently. It's part of the Minnehaha Park. There's actually a very, very large picnic facility. So oftentimes on weekends, it can take you half an hour to get 2 blocks because of all the people driving in and out of the picnic facility there. So this is a really, really critical project for the Veterans Home, and I would hope that it's one that you all would consider. I know that it hasn't been in previous bonding bills, but I would just hope that you would consider that as well. And if there are no questions at this time, I would withdraw this and hope that you give it due consideration in the final bill.
Thank you. I will say that of things that we weren't aware of much before, this has risen in stature. So, Representative Detmer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Dean, for bringing this forward. This is actually House File 1092, which Dabney authored, Representative Dabney, and I am a co-author of the bill also. And just one important point is that the current bridge is closed, obviously, and that it's the shortest route to the VA hospital. And who do we have in the Minneapolis home? Many of them are World War II veterans, Vietnam War veterans, Korean War veterans, and so forth. So it's the shortest route to the hospital, and the other route would take us way out of the way. So I've been over to the Minneapolis Veterans Home several times, speaking there. So this is a real need. It's one of the priorities of the commissioner. So I hope that we can add this to our bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Detmer. Representative Dean, A22.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This is actually $2.5 million for the Emergency Operations Center and Fire Training Facility. That's the city of Minneapolis. It's actually located just outside the city of Minneapolis. This is a project that didn't make it into last year's bill. So I don't know how we consider that, but it's a critical project. There are a number of different fire departments and other folks that actually use this facility. It isn't just a facility for Minneapolis. It's used regionally. And my understanding that this is the facility that might be considered, sort of undergraduate degree. And then to get the higher training, you would then go up to Camp Ripley. So this is sort of that basic primary emergency operation training that our emergency responders go through. A critical project, something that, as I mentioned, was not included in last year's bonding bill that wasn't passed. So it was a project that was considered, but didn't make it into the final bill that wasn't passed. So at this time, I'll withdraw it.
Thank you, Representative Dean. A29.
25, I think, is the one that I submitted. There's another one that came through that was A29 that...
Time out. I've got A29. What is it? Not... What is it? Is it? I have $5 million for Hennepin Center for the Arts.
Oh, I'm sorry. You jumped. I'm sorry. Yes, A29. We heard the testimony. This is something that's long overdue. This is a health and safety hazard for folks around the building. It's something that, again, this was the result of some unforeseen situations in the construction that they were going through initially. It was they learned that there was a well that had to be capped, and that was significant money that they had to do in order to move forward. So some of this was not included in the original planning of the project, and this has continued to inhibit, actually, not just the outside safety of the building, but the inside safety. And if this isn't included in this year's bonding bill and it's considered for next year's bonding bill, I would just make sure that the chair ride up the elevator by himself. And if he doesn't come down, well, I guess the vice chair would take over at that time. So,
Will the mayor of Minneapolis rescue me?
well, we don't know who that mayor will be at this time. So at this time, I would choose to withdraw this amendment.
Representative Dean, A17-0418.
Okay, this is the $1.6 million for the family partnership that was included in last year's bonding bill. An important project for the pre-design of the facility that does incredible services for children and families in the area. And I would hope that as this bonding bill begins to grow to a point that I think that we'll be able to garner the votes necessary to actually pass a bonding bill this year. I would hope that the chair and the leadership that's currently involved in considering what the limit is, that this would be given serious consideration. And
Is this one cash?
yeah, I believe that this one is cash. Well, no, this is pre-design.
But is it nonprofit? It's a nonprofit.
Oh, it's a nonprofit, yes, so this has to be cash. So I don't believe that there is a agency that they are partnering with currently for that. So yes, that would be cash as well. And I am optimistic because since I've been here, every bonding bill has had cash in it. So I would hope that that would be this case moving forward this year as well. And I think that no, I think there's one more.
You have 830.
830, okay. I'll withdraw this one, and, I mean, with the past one. And with this one, I would actually like to divide this bill.
All right. Representative Dean has moved to divide. How?
Well, I would hope to divide this. I thought the intent of this amendment was to actually create a large bridge project, as we've created the smaller bridge project for under $7 million. If you look on the backside at 2.4, there's actually major local bridges, and I would like to divide that out and take that section first to assure that with the smaller bridge project that has a $7 million limit, they would actually have a larger or major bridge, local bridges that would be over $7 million.
We're working on.
Okay.
Ms. Dyson, would you walk through this, please, with the changes?
Mr. Chair and members, to have just the statutory change to create the major local bridge program, you would want in the amendment, the A30 amendment, page 2, line 1 through page 2, line 10.
Yeah. That divides it.
Mr. Chair, everything on page 1 relates to increasing the total dollar amount that is allocated to the local bridge program, and then has 2 set aside. So page 1 is appropriation changes, and page 2 is the statutory program.
Okay. Do you understand what the division is? Okay. Those in favor of dividing the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Prevails. You won one.
Well, Mr. Chair, I believe we just divided it. Now we have to actually vote on what we divided.
Well, small victories.
So I would ask that we consider voting on what we just divided 2-1 through 210 first.
Okay. So would you care to explain what you're doing there?
What I'm doing is we've created a pool of money for bridges, $7 million and under, which assists a lot of bridges throughout the state of Minnesota. The cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, I'm thinking maybe Duluth, Rochester, maybe even Mankato might have major bridges, and Winona, might even have major bridges that are much over $7 million.
You didn't appropriate, you just set up the policy.
Yeah, and this is just to set up the policy to have this in place. I'm not, by separating this, I'm not appropriating the money towards that. And what I'm saying is if we're going to have a limit of bridges $7 million and under, we should also have another pool of money that is actually for bridges over $7 million. And of course, you know, we would be able to determine what that is when we see what the need is and be able to appropriate the amount of money necessary for that.
Talk a little longer. We're trying to figure.
You're trying to figure it out. Okay. So, and as a reminder, we've talked a lot today about what was in the bonding bill last year.
All right, we figured it out now.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That $7 million limit that we have talked about, is that in the transportation bill?
I believe it is. Yes. Mr. Lee will explain. I actually don't think there's a problem with this amendment.
Right.
Mr. Lee?
Mr. Chair and members, the Transportation Conference Committee adopted an amendment on Monday that is essentially the committee's position, though it's not an actual conference committee report as of yet. But there's a section in there that funds a local bridge program out of a percentage of the motor vehicle lease sales tax at about $12 million a year. And then there's a section that restricts the amount of money that can be spent in that program to bridges that have a total cost of under $7 million. So in a sense, those dollars can't be used for bridges that have a total cost over $7 million.
So, Mr. Lee, this amendment would not,
Should I keep talking?
we're just making sure that this doesn't in some way conflict with,
And that was the purpose of my question, Mr. Chair.
what?
That was the purpose of my
Yeah,
question,
that's
is if
what
it's
we're
conflicting.
getting into. And now, Ms. Dyson will explain it to us.
Okay. Mr. Chair, it's not a matter of conflicting with the cap on small bridges at 7 million, but what I wanted to point out is the local bridge replacement program appropriation on pages 14 to 15 of the bill is an appropriation to the program in Minnesota statutes 174.50, and this is adding a subdivision to that section so that the appropriation, just so you're aware of it, that this appropriation would be eligible to go either to major bridges or small bridges. So this would make major bridges eligible for that money.
Mr. Chair, which is what I'm trying to do.
Yes, we get that. On this one, everybody vote how they want.
Yep.
Representative, sorry, didn't mean to demote you. Ms. Dyson, will you explain what we're voting on?
Okay. What do you want me to explain?
What this amendment exactly does in the
Okay.
grand scheme of the large.
Yes.
Okay.
The over under 7 million.
Mr. Chair and members, based on the delete all amendment at this time, the appropriation for the local bridge replacement rehabilitation program is an appropriation to the entire program in Minnesota statutes 174.50. The cap that is in the transportation bill of 7 million for small bridges is added as a new subdivision in that section. This amendment adds another subdivision to that same section of statute that says that it is for replacement or rehabilitation of major bridges that cost more than 7 million.
Thank you.
So by having if the appropriation said it was for specific subdivisions, it would limit it, but the statutory program would be set up, if both of these were enacted, would be set up with a major bridge program and a small bridge program. The appropriation in the bill is available to both.
Well, I'll say this, Representative Dean, you came that close. But this is something I think that we do need to work on more in the future. I'm concerned through the discussion we've been having that it could be contradictory to what was just done in transportation. And so therefore, I would recommend a no vote. So, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Noes prevail. But we'll work on that, Representative Dean.
Okay, the other piece actually funds two major bridge projects. One in St. Paul, the 3rd Street Bridge, and one in Minneapolis, the 10th Avenue Bridge, which, by the way, the 10th Avenue Bridge was the bridge that was the reliever bridge for when the Highway 35 bridge collapsed. So this is, again, a significant bridge for in Minneapolis that crosses the Mississippi River. I would hate to think what would happen if this bridge were to fail, and it's actually at a point that's very critical right now. Some of us, not all of us, but most of us have been there. We've seen what it looks like. It's not in good shape. And I would hope that the chair would consider this as far as adding this to the bonding bill. And I
Consider it, are you,
I would ask that we consider it and that we take this to a vote.
then we will vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Noes prevail. I think, Representative Dean,
I'm done.
you're done. So we'll go Representative Hanson. And the first one is, which, you want to get to Lilydale here?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would move the A7, and I believe the mayor and the city councilor from Lilydale who were here, they left at 6:30, or they left to go and to come back at 6:30. So
Okay.
if I could have them testify, they've been
All right.
here since 3.
Representative Hanson has moved A7. The testifiers come down. There they are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
members of the committee. I've been meeting with people, so I sort of take the post role and introduce the mayor of Lilydale, the Honorable Warren Peterson. And we're here to remind you of the stormwater management program that Lilydale has. This was presented to your committee about a year and a half ago. We testified last year. It was in the bill last year. We hope that as this process goes forward, you will accept Representative Hanson's amendment and put it in your bill this year. To remind you, Lilydale is a small town, 940 people on the south side of the Mississippi River, through which a lot of water from Dakota County moves as it goes toward the Mississippi River. As a small city, we cheerfully accept the responsibility for managing this, the stability of the Mississippi River bluff, management of surface water, but for a town of our size, with an annual budget of $500,000, this project, which counting private funds of homeowners and the city, is going to be about 225% of our annual budget. So we're hoping for a little help from the city. We've collected all this stormwater runoff through sewer improvements, and what's left to be done is to complete a special drop shaft sewer that we're working on with the Department of Transportation to move that water from up on top of the bluff down to where into a catchment basin that the Highway Department is building, and then it goes into the river. Your support would be very much appreciated.
Thank you. And many of us well know where Lilydale is.
If you've been to the Moose Country, you've seen our city.
And in fact, were I not here at this moment, I would be at Moose Country in Lilydale. It is Wednesday night, isn't it?
I don't know. I've lost track here.
It's a steak night there.
Yeah, okay. Well,
all right.
Come on down anytime. You're welcome, and we're pretty much taking care of this stormwater now, with your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Hanson.
And so this was in the bill last year. What the councilor didn't mention is that the price went up because of the delay, that they actually were penalized by the contractor, and have had to, so the cost has gone up. It is a general fund appropriation. I am going to withdraw this amendment because I'm trying to be nice, and that it was in the bill last year. And in that $1 billion bill, it was $140,000. This was, I believe, the only direct appropriation in Dakota County last year. Out of a $1 billion bill, a $1 billion bill, $140,000.
Representative Hanson, do you know how much it is now?
Councilor Deal, it was a $90K addition, correct, of cost for the penalty? Is that the correct memory I have?
Well, we're in legal proceedings, but that's a good estimate, yes.
90K more.
About 90K more. Okay, again, this is cash. I don't have very much cash in the bill, but, you know, the fact that it was in last year certainly gives it good consideration. Next, let's go to A17-0419. Representative Hanson.
I have a few of them here. So this is, I would move the A17-0419, Mr. Chair. And this was, we actually heard testimony from the MnDOT Commissioner. This provision for the Mendota Heights truck station, the $14 million was not in the bill last year. There was a facilities, I believe, program, but not this particular one. And I think that transportation areas and building these buildings is an important component. I am going to go to a vote on this, and I would like a roll call.
I know. Thank you, Representative Hanson. And you know, our problem with this is that we don't have any trunk highway bonds in our bill at this point. So with that said, those in favor say aye.
Aye. Mr. Chair, I asked.
Oh, you called a roll call?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
Dean.
No. No.
Uglum.
Wait. That was Dean.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was
Usually go last
Oh, I'm
names.
sorry, Urdahl.
Confusion.
I'm still an O.
Bennett. Carlson.
Aye.
Considine.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Detmer.
No.
Eklund.
Aye.
Frankie.
No.
Grossel.
No.
Gunther.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hausman.
Yes.
Jurgens.
No.
Lilly.
Yes.
Lewitt.
No.
Miller.
No.
Pearson.
No.
Hoppy.
Yes.
Poston.
No.
Runbeck. Thought.
There being 11 nays and 9 ayes, the amendment fails. Next, A5, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the A5 amendment. The A5 and the following A6 are the provisions that Mayor Torville discussed earlier this afternoon. So I think they did a good job of discussing these. This one is the one near Inver Hills, important, $1 million appropriation, and I would move this bill.
Okay, it has been moved. I'll just comment on this. I think you've got several new projects, and you know we would certainly like to have them as part of our vetting process, probably doing tours of them in this next summer. So with that, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion fails. A6, Representative Hanson.
The A6 amendment is similar. This is an Argenta Trail. This relates to Highway 55. It's a major rights-of-way. And I want to just say on these as we go through them, Dakota County in the 2010 census had 398,000 people living in Dakota County. So we're over 400,000 people. And I would encourage you, Mr. Chair and committee members, to look at the templates or the spreadsheets on where investments have been made in capital over the last few years. And there's a hole. And there's a hole in Dakota County where there hasn't been the investment, not for the lack of members trying. So some of the, I'm putting these forward, Mr. Chair and members, because sometimes you can't get heard any other way. And we're going to get to some here later on where they've been brought up year after year after year and never get included. The two Invergrove ones are important. I know that you haven't seen them before. So I want to move forward on those. I'm not going to ask for a roll call on the A6.
On A6, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion fails. Representative Hanson, we're going to A8, the Billsby Dam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and committee members, you heard earlier today about the Billsby Dam, 107 years old. Now, some of us trucked down to the Lanesboro Dam and showed support for a Greater Minnesota project that I think was a 149-year-old dam. So this one's not quite that old, but it's old. And over time, dams fall apart. And so it's a safety issue. This is, again, in Dakota County. Wasn't in the bill last year, not for not trying. There have been some previous dollars for this, but last year it was not in. I do want a roll call on this, on the A8 amendment.
Thank you, Representative Hanson. And I will say on this one, we have been lobbied pretty strongly by other representatives representing Dakota County. And so it certainly has risen in my view as to things that had not been considered before, that we should take a closer look at this time. Tonight I'm going to recommend a no vote, but again, this is something that I've been talked about quite a bit lately, and we're looking at it. And you want a roll call?
Yep.
Urdahl.
No.
Uglum. Nope. Bennett. Nope. Carlson.
Aye.
Considine.
Yes.
Dean.
Aye.
Detmer.
No.
Eklund.
Aye.
Frankie.
No.
Rossel.
No.
Gunther.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hausman.
Yes.
Durgan.
Pass.
Pardon?
Pass.
Lilly.
Yes.
Lewick.
No.
Miller.
No.
Pearson.
No.
Coffee.
Yes.
Poston.
No.
Runbeck. Saw.
Yes.
Jurgens.
Yes.
There being 12 nays and 9 ayes, the motion fails. And now we go to Representative Hanson and A9.
Is that right? No? Is it different time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would move the A9 amendment. This is a project that is affected 3 or 4 districts. I know that Representative Frankie has has asked for hearings in the Environment Committee. I don't think the Environment Committee has heard any capital investment issues. but this is an important project. It's, again, in Dakota County, 400,000 people. And I would ask for your support for this. And I would ask for a roll call. So what
We're not going to vote yet.
Representative Lilly asked what this was. If you are familiar with the 52-494 interchange, if you were in the northeast quadrant of that as you're heading south on 52, there is a natural lake that straddles the border of South St. Paul, Invergrove, and it also collects the water from West St. Paul. The rest of the water goes to Lilydale, but I see they've gone already. That flows north. So there is a pumping station that's needed because the water is bouncing so high from the runoff because of the altered terrain, and it's impacting the homes around that. So, and because it straddles multiple cities, it's a problem.
Okay, thank you, Representative Hanson. I will make a correction. The previous vote was 11 no and 10 yes. So if some of you were keeping score over there, we were a little screwed up over here. On this project, once again, I look forward this summer to touring it and seeing the seeing the project itself. Representative Frankie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Hanson, for bringing this forward. As you know, and we've worked together on this, trying to get this through, and I had a hard time getting a hearing. But I would also like to point out that there was an author amendment that we could not get heard or changed to this amount, so this amount is actually half. And if moving forward we cannot get this through, I'm sure it will end up costing more come next year, but I am still going to continue to fight for it. So I just wanted to thank you for bringing that forward, Representative Hanson.
Okay, thank you. Take the roll, please.
And this is for Amendment A9.
Yes.
Urdahl.
No.
Uglum.
No.
Bennett. No. Carlson.
Aye.
Considine.
Yes.
Dean.
Aye.
Detmer.
No.
Eklund.
Aye.
Frankie.
Aye.
Rossel.
No.
Gunther.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hausman.
Yes.
Jurgen.
No.
Lilly.
Yes.
Lewitt.
No.
Miller.
No.
Pearson.
No.
Poppy.
Yes.
Holston.
No.
Poston.
No.
Runbeck. Sauce.
There being 10 ayes and 11 nays, the amendment fails. Representative Hanson, I think we're to A10.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Only a couple left. I'd move the A10, and members, those of you who have been here have heard the state highway that is also Robert Street that moves through northern Dakota County. We heard testimony again tonight. The legislature has heard testimony for years. I know of no other place where a state highway, the burden of doing a state highway was primarily put on the shoulders of the local community. I think many of you have heard the testimony over the years, know that. I know that this is general fund, and I know you don't have general fund. But at some point, you know, there hasn't even been a vote because it hasn't been included for years. So I am going to ask for a roll call on this. We tried other methods in the tax bill and a variety of other ways to try to make West St. Paul at least whole. and it hasn't worked. So I'm asking for your support.
Thank you, Representative Hanson, and as indicated, because we don't have cash, I recommend a no vote. Call the roll, please.
Urdahl.
No.
Fuglam.
No.
Bennett. No. Carlson.
Aye.
Considine.
Yes.
Dean.
Aye.
Detmer.
No.
Eklund.
Aye.
Frankie.
No.
Rossel.
No.
Gunther.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hausman.
Yes.
Jurgens.
Yes.
Lilly.
Yes.
Lewick.
No.
Miller.
No.
Pearson.
No.
Poppy.
Yes.
Poston.
No.
Runbeck. Salk.
There being 10 ayes and 11 noes, the amendment fails. Now, what appears to be the last amendment we have, A28, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would move the A28 amendment. This is also, although the location of the freeway landfills in Dakota County, the waste that was hauled to it is from all over the state. And the landowner, the operator, has not entered into the closed landfill program. And therefore, in the environment bill that we've all voted on, there was a provision for indemnification of those haulers, but that doesn't do anything to clean up the actual landfill. So to clean up the landfill, you need to get the landowner to enter into the closed landfill program. Unless that happens, it's not going to be cleaned up. And then there's going to be costs. The state's going to be dealing with this. And if we don't provide additional money, and the state has to deal with this, then the closed landfill funds that are supposed to be used for maintenance for landfills all throughout the state, that money is going to get drained dealing with this. So what this provision is, it may look like a big number, but I have it spread over 3 biennium. Because the first work that would need to be done if the landowner enters into the closed landfill program, about $2 million in this biennium to start that work. And then $35 million the subsequent biennium, and $35 million after that. This is a huge problem that's been going on for decades. And there's a simple solution that's being portrayed, and that's the indemnification. That indemnification is not going to close up. It's not going to clean up the landfill. We need to get the landowner into the closed landfill program, and it's going to take money to clean it up. And the longer we wait, particularly when there is a quarry that is near the river there that eventually is going to close down, that has water getting pumped out of it, we have a potentially even bigger mess coming. So I would ask for a roll call on this. This is a big issue. It's not sexy to talk about landfills. It's not something that you can put your name on a building. It's not something that you can put your name on the bridge. But it affects many of us, many of our constituents, many of the small businesses, our school districts, our cities. This problem is going to take money to solve, and it takes an incentive to get the landowner into the closed landfill program.
Thank you, Representative Hanson, and there are other landfill bills out there as well, and we can look at this in light of the landfill issue. We're doing a roll call? Yep. Begin.
Urdahl.
No.
Fuglam.
No.
Bennett. No. Carlson.
Aye.
Considine.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Detmer.
No.
Eklund.
Aye.
Frankie,
No.
Grassel,
No.
Gunther,
No.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hausman,
Yes.
Jurgens,
No.
Lilly,
Yes.
Lewick,
No.
Miller,
No.
Pearson,
No.
Hoppy,
Yes.
Poston,
No.
Dunbag, Saw.
There being 9 ayes and 12 nays, the amendment fails. That, Representative Dean?
Mr. Chair, I thought at the beginning you had said that we'd all get some chances to comment.
Well, you see, Representative Dean, I was going to say, that concludes our amendments, and now we'll have discussion. My gosh, keep this up, I'll move you over here to be my CA.
Wait a minute now.
Representative Dean, did you have some comments?
I actually did, Mr. Chair, and thank you. And, you know, I think to say that many of us are disappointed in this size of this proposed bonding bill would be an understatement. When we consider the past several bienniums, except the last biennium, I believe that the average amount of bonding projects that we've been getting per biennium has been roughly $1.2 billion. And, you know, we often talk a lot about a non-bonding year and a bonding year, and if you look at actually the history, we actually almost bond every year, just that one year it's a lot bigger than the other year, so.
In the first year, the biennium, the average, I think, is $250 million.
Yeah, and.
Second year, over 800.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm too far off in my math. But there was not a bonding bill the last biennium, and if we do a $600 million bonding bill this year and a $600 million bonding bill next year, that means the average for each of the last 2 bienniums will only be $600 million, which is half the amount of what we had been doing. And we're doing this at a time that there's surplus. We're doing this at a time when there is actually decent interest rates. And I'm not a huge financial genius, but I actually think the best time to borrow money is when interest rates are low. And we've been missing that opportunity. And I would hope that if the bill that comes, the bonding bill that comes back to us, I'm not sure where it's going to come back on the floor, I'm guessing, isn't significantly bigger than the $600 million that we consider doing a significant bonding bill in 2018 to actually fund the projects that we have a backlog for, and to do it at a time when, you know, interest rates are still fairly reasonable, so that the amount of debt service that we'll have to pay moving forward is significantly reduced. So I would just hope that, Mr. Chair, that you fight hard with your leadership to increase this dollar amount, and that we get a significant number of these projects funded this year, which will actually lessen a little bit of the load next year moving forward. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Dean. Representative Hausman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaker Dowd erred in the last few days when he said this is the largest bill ever in a non-bonding year, because I've often cited 2005 and 2006 when Governor Pawlenty was the governor, Speaker Spigum, Majority Leader Eric Paulson, and Dan Dorman was the author of the bill. And in that year, they had a bill just under $1 billion. In fact, 2 years in a row, 2005 and 2006, they wrote bills just under $1 billion, because there had been previous years that where they had not succeeded in a large bill.
But
So
what was
we're,
total in 2004?
I'm sorry,
What was 2004?
several years before that. We're a biennium behind. Most of these projects have been waiting 2 or 3 years. You heard one of them, they've been waiting 5 years. And so I just wanted to summarize the challenge ahead of us from many of the people we heard from today. First of all, the critical public safety projects left out of this bill. The Minnesota Security Hospital, the St. Cloud Prison, the new intake, the Coon Rapids Railroad Grade Separation Project, one of the 3 most dangerous in the state, the Dorothy Day Opportunity Center, and the Minneapolis Veterans Home Trust Bridge. All but the Trust Bridge were in last year's bill. State agency priorities that are not in this bill. The Centennial Parking Ramp structural repairs, the #1 request of administration. The Fort Snelling Visitor Center, the #1 request of the Historical Society. The Minnesota Security Hospital Phase 2, the #1 request of DHS. And the UMD Chemistry and Advanced Materials Science Building, the #1, after the HEAPR, of course, the #1 ranked project for the University of Minnesota. Local government priorities. Representative Dean already referenced the bridges in Minneapolis and St. Paul, but the Duluth Steam Line was the #1 City of Duluth ranked project. The Mall of America Transit Station, the #1 ranked project in the city of Bloomington. And then higher education. In every bonding bill that I've ever been part of, higher education has always been the major part of the bill, roughly a third of the bill. In this bill, we're somewhere between, I think, 10 and 11%. But this comes because I think the link with transportation, because we are struggling with real revenue for transportation, we depend so heavily on the bonding bill. So this year, $250 million out of 600 is for transportation and only $63 million for higher education. That's just kind of a flip-flop from the way we have tended to do this. I, of course, talked earlier about no new permanent supportive housing. We allow them to spend some of the earlier debt service. Representative Hansen referenced an unbalanced bill. Usually you should look at a bill and say, this bill is fair to the whole state. But there is very little that you can point to in here for the suburbs, because usually there are mixed-use campuses, none of those are funded. Usually there are metro parks, none of that is funded. Usually there are transit corridors, none of that is funded. And so very, very little for the suburbs in the metropolitan area. I referenced the funding for the Mall of America Transit Station, but also the Metro Orange Line. Metro Parks, the Mall of America Transit Station, Orange Line were all in last year's bill. And then, of course, the millions in the non-state match and federal money that potentially is lost when we don't do REM, when we don't do St. Louis River Area of Concern, if we don't fully fund that, the housing infrastructure bonds, so many matching dollars that are left on the table. I would just close by talking a little bit about that word infrastructure. There's been a description that, well, this bill is just infrastructure. Actually, everything we build is infrastructure. And that includes if we do it for parks and trails or if we do it for arts and culture. And so the 3 things that were in last year's bill that add to the vibrant quality of life in this state are around the area of arts and culture. Last year, there was money in there for the Rife Center in Grand Rapids. Last year, there was money in there for the Minnesota Museum of American Art. There was money in there for the Hennepin Center for the Arts. They do an economic study regularly. It's well over $1 billion that arts and culture and their customers add to the economy of the state of Minnesota. And that is zero in this. It's infrastructure. It's cultural, it's infrastructure that serves arts and culture. So we have a lot of work to do. I hope we stay at this very vigorously for the next couple of weeks, because there were many things in last year's bill that we have to take another look at.
Thank you, Representative Hausman. I look forward to working with you in the coming week. Representative Carlson.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to comment, but I'll stand with the concluding comments that our lead made. I would have probably said many of the same things. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Representative Detmer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And and the rest of the committee here, I know, is looking at last year's bonding bill was House File 622, $990 million. It was politically balanced. About 50% of the projects were Republican, 50% were Democrat, and geographically balanced. We had a great bill last year, and too bad we have to be doing this year. But I think, knowing Chair, we'll be putting together, I think, a good balanced bill this year. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Well, seeing none, I again urge everyone to sit back and enjoy the ride the rest of the way, and hopefully we come up with a good bill that will serve the people. And with that, oh my gosh, I almost forgot to pass. Sit down. I almost forgot to pass the bill. No, not yet. We have to. You had your hopes up, didn't you? We're going to re-refer this to House File, what is it, 892 to Ways and Means, as amended. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Carried. And as Sergeant Preston said to King, this case is closed.